Alright, got another Cybex machine here, another Cybex from the Eagle line. This time a leg curl. We were looking at a leg extension machine earlier, now a leg curl, right? So obviously it's typically intended to work the hamstrings. We're not going to get into other ways you might want to or be able to use this machine, but just focusing on that. Again, I like the way it's designed for teaching purposes because we have a very clear look at the cable here, this nice big cam, and and we say, oh, it's just a circle. Yeah, true. But because it's not centered on that axis, its position is going to change. And so the cable, the line of pull, will change as well. So take a look at the distance here. Again, we're looking at this time it's about a foot, I would say, between this axis and that line of pull there, give or take, right? If you were to draw this line through and then make a perpendicular distance, let's say about a foot. Now, we're starting off in a position here. If you picture yourself laid out on this machine, face down, the hamstrings or, the legs would be maybe some point in your calf or, upper ankle area, however you want to put your leg on this machine based on how you fit and how you're put together. Your knees might be slightly bent, or they could be almost completely straight, but your hamstrings are going to be in kind of a mid-range position, right? Give or take. And then from that mid-range position, as you come through this arc, your hamstrings are continuing to shorten until you can't shorten them anymore, either because you run out of range or because your strength kind of runs out. You're not able to generate as much force to overcome the resistance on the machine. Now, again, I said before that well-designed, intelligently designed cams attempt to match, or at least, somewhat match your strength profile. That is to say, as you start to get weaker, the weight might get easier too, based on the moment arm changing. That distance between the axis and the force line might get a little smaller. So let's look at what happens here. You see that distance? Again, that's about a foot, give or take, between that cable's line of pull and the axis. Now, when I move this guy out, as I pick this up, start doing the curl, right? At first, there's not a whole lot of change, but as we start to go through this rep, as our hamstring continues to shorten, watch what happens. There we go. You see, that cable is moving a little bit through space. It's farther out here, and as we come up into the leg curl, you see that the cable's getting closer to that axis because the cam is moving in such a way that it's pulling that cable in closer to the axis. So that means the moment arm is getting smaller. That means that the resistance your body has to overcome is decreasing. This is important because, again, as a muscle gets into its more shortened lengths, it's going to drop off in force. So if you look at this orientation here, right, if you're sitting on the pad, you might be able to get your leg up this high, right? When you back up a little bit, we come up to this position. This is a realistic position. Some people can get farther than that, right? They're getting their heels almost on their butts, hitting themselves with the pad or hitting themselves with the machine. So you could feasibly, a lot of people, get all the way up here, and you notice what happens to that cable. Again, I'm going to come down, and you can see very nicely that cable changing its position or changing its orientation relative to the axis because of the shape of that cam and the way it's put together. So again, we come down kind of towards the beginning of the rep. It's maybe a foot away, and then it doesn't move a whole lot. And then as we start to really shorten these muscles out, boom, you see that cable getting really a lot closer to the axis. I would say a good third of it's dropping off, maybe more like half, actually. It's very significant. So it's good to take a look at these things and, again, realize not all machines are created equal. Some of them will have a major drop-off like that. Others will be almost linear the whole time. And that's with those sorts of machines, you will often find that they might feel really easy at one point and really hard at another because they're not taking into account the fact that humans don't have the same strength throughout their entire range of motion. It changes a lot, and it typically is highest in the mid-ranges for a muscle length. So hopefully that helps you out a little bit, and I'm going to try to get some models so I can show this with a body on the machine to, maybe drive this point home a little bit more and make it even a little bit clearer. But thanks for watching.